We're going to talk about quarterback controversies. Well, kind of. Of course, the Washington Redskins losing RG3, who is out. MRIs have said it's just a sprain, so he will be back in no time. However, in that John Gruden offense, it seems to me their backup, Kirk Cousins, is more suited to that ability. Not just from a throwing standpoint, talent aside. RG3 is the better athletic player of the two. However, when it comes to systems, it seemed that Kirk Cousins, granted it was only a small sample size when he came in for 3 quarters, he seemed to do very well against the poor Jacksonville squad. Minus that, do you see Kirk Cousins supplanting himself as a starter in a few weeks' time over RG3, or should he be the starter over Robert Griffin III?
I would say no. I'd go back to my original quarterback. He's earned that right, and I think you're right. He has more talent, and I think he will get those systems down.
There's an old saying in sports that you don't lose your starting position because of injury.
So there's also another saying, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, at the same time, they're paying him a large amount of money. A large amount of money.
But we've seen this before, though. We've seen it before when you have a quarterback who's a backup, who's done better because it's just an offense that was suited to his skill sets. Not saying that the starter is any worse. It's just it happens, and you look at it time and time again where it's only been 2 full seasons for Robert Griffin. Well, a season and a half really. Injury plagued his second year. His freshman year, he was phenomenal. But those are small sample sizes. How can we still say it's Robert's job when he's not an official starting quarterback? He's not a veteran, so to speak. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, that makes sense to a certain extent. But at the same time, so many times in the game of football, whether it be the CFL or NFL, many times a backup quarterback comes in a situation like that and blossoms. It could be different when they know who he's going to be starting next week for Washington, which will be the backup instead of the starter. The defense will be ready for him, not RJ. So I think more than anything, if the offense fits to that backup quarterback, that means the OC has done a heck of a job getting that offense ready and that it's seamless. And I think that a lot of credit goes to the offensive coach for getting that team ready for whoever's going to be the quarterback.
All right, switching our attention to hockey now, the Montreal Canadiens have issued 4 A's, 4 alternate captains this season. Obviously, the loss of Brian Giunta, that veteran leadership, going to Buffalo. And the GM, our Bergevin, and the rest of that coaching staff said, you know what, we'd rather have 4 alternates, no captains, and see how it goes. Of course, PK Subban and Max Pacioretty are going to be alternating home and road. Subban, home games for the first half of the year. He'll be going to road games second half of the year, and vice versa for Pacioretty. What do you make of this? Do you think it's smart to have 4 alternates rather than a captain and maybe 2 other alternates? To me, it seems logical to have a captain on your team, does it not? This is almost as bad as giving Roberto Luongo the captaincy.
Not that bad. I think you've seen a lot of teams have done this. This is not the first time. And I think you got a couple of young guys that are into the mix now that may be throwing a C on them right now, like maybe a PK is not ready for it. But a year wearing the A, maybe 2 years wearing the A, maybe in that 3rd year he does wear the C. But sometimes we make a little too much out of it because of the market they're in. Trust me, wearing the C in Montreal is not like wearing the C in Columbus. There's a little more pressure for you in Montreal. And don't fool yourself, too. The other guy that they're missing as leadership in that team is Josh Georges, which was huge. It still bothers me why Montreal let him go. But you know what? It is what it is, and you see teams at all different levels of hockey do that, and I don't think anything's going to be different in Montreal.
Avery?
Well, I think it's a captain. I think they should step up to the plate, and I would pick Subban as a captain. He may be a little young. He's had controversy in his early career. But I think it's a chance now to have him step up and become a man on that team and a leader. He was starting to show in the playoffs last year, and maybe become more responsible as an athlete on that team.
When your defenseman is your top point getter in the playoffs, that speaks volumes. He's also won a Norris, so you have to give him some due. I agree with Avery there. How about this one? Really quick, NHL coming up with some new rules to create offense. Of course, when it comes to deflections in certain zones, they will keep it in the offensive zone. Other ones would include some other moves with icing, you name it, regulations, a little more stricter when it comes to certain penalty calls. Do you feel that any of these rule changes are going to benefit and increase goal scoring this year?
I think the chances are greatly increased. I don't like some of the rules I don't like, Like, for example, throwing a center out of a face-off twice, he gets a penalty for it. You know, sometimes that's the job of the linesman, to just drop the damn puck and get it in play. And they have to do that and do a better job of that from the officiating perspective. And it's funny, looking at expanding the area where goaltenders can play the puck, they took that away a few years ago because it was taking away too many offensive chances for the teams. Now they're putting it back in, let the goalies hopefully make mistakes and create more chances.
Yeah, you know, kind of challenges the goalie to play the puck better too. And coming out, it should increase the offensive opportunities for teams. You know, that's what the NHL is all about. You know, and you're never going to go back to the days of the '80s where Gretzky
Shrink those goalie pads, man.
Yeah, I don't.
Make
Unless
them 20 pounds each.
they look like
Just make
Sears.
'em heavy.
They look like Sears catalogs back then on a guy's shins. So I don't think you're ever going to go back to those days. But the NHL would sure love to see something close to it. But the old trap is still going to come into play, and you're going to have teams that might open it up offensively during the regular season, come playoffs. And we know what happens in playoffs. It's a totally different game of hockey.
Maybe just make bigger nets. I think that'd solve everything. Bigger goalie equipment, bigger nets. Why not? How about this really quick, guys, before we go to break? Serious injuries, of course. NFL, we talk about quarterbacks being hurt. Same thing in the CFL. Travis Lulay going down, Darian Durant going down, Drew Willie going down, Bo Levi Mitchell going down. The top team in the CFL losing their quarterback. It's not as serious as they originally thought, so he should only miss a few games. But they also miss another guy, defensive end Charleston Hughes. Who's the bigger loss for the Calgary Stampeders? Their defensive end, their heart of the defense, their captain, or Bo Levi Mitchell? So Charleston Hughes, Bo Levi Mitchell. Which one would be the bigger loss for long term for Calgary?
Well, I think Drew Tate is biting at the bit to be the starter again. So I think Hughes losing him on the defensive end of things is a bigger loss.
So you say Hughes is a bigger loss than Mitchell?
Yeah.
I would agree with you. I think Calgary has got a lot of depth at the quarterback position. They have guys that can step in and play it for him, but defensively, that's going to hurt.
You guys have faith in Drew Tate? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't know if I have faith in Drew Tate, but Drew Tate is a guy that's very high on himself. I'm surprised his helmet fits on his head. But he's biting at the bit to show that he deserves the #1 spot. So I think he's going to do everything he can to hold on to it. So when Bo Levi gets back, as much as I just said, injuries, you shouldn't lose your spot because of it. Yeah, he's going to want Huffnagel to make a tough decision whether or not Bo Levi comes back as a starter.
Well, we know Drew Tate's history, and he gets hurt a lot. But we're going to take another commercial break. When we return, we'll have Over Under next.